you think that it's too late to start a podcast?
Absolutely not. No. I've seen so many people start podcasts and just explode over the course of like a month, 2 months, 3 months.
What do you think about like business people who want to start one for their business? Do you think it's a viable strategy today?
It's the same thing as the answer to the same question about starting a YouTube channel 4 or 5 years ago, which is like the amount that you want to go into it, the amount of skill, the amount of effort, all of that stuff is incredibly important if you do want to blow up, but it's never too late.
How often do you get recognized out here?
If I go out to a crowded area where there's a lot of people, chances are
Somebody will recognize you?
Yeah.
But it seems to have not helped with the ladies.
Honestly, no, I don't think so. Not at all.
Do you think that Graham is still frugal?
Yes. Yeah.
What's up, Wealth Builders? Today, I have got one of the co-hosts of one of the biggest podcasts out there, the Iced Coffee Hour. I've got Jack Selby. What's up, man?
What's up, dude? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude, it's been a while since you were in, but the last one we did well. We talked about a number of things with the podcast, faith, buying houses, the economy. So I'm excited to catch back up and see how things been going for you.
Yeah, dude, everything's been going pretty good. Not a lot, honestly, has changed in my life, except the Iced Coffee Hour is growing, which is cool. And that's it. Still single.
Oh, okay. There we go. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how your increased fame has helped your dating life.
Increased fame. Okay, sure. Yeah.
How often do you get recognized out here?
It really depends because I don't go out that much.
That's true. You and Graham are hermits.
Yeah, like I kind of just stay inside and maybe I'll go play pickleball. That's about as social as I'll get. Maybe I'll go to a bar. If I go out to a crowded area where there's a lot of people, chances are
somebody will recognize you.
Yeah.
But it seems to have not helped with the ladies.
Honestly, no, I don't think so. Not at all. No, the only thing is like if you have an Instagram that has some sort of a following and it seems like people are interested in what you're doing, with your life, then I think that establishes a little bit of a credibility there because they automatically assume you're not like some sociopath or something like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's helped in that capacity. But aside from that, not really.
They don't DM you or nothing?
Well, sometimes they do, but generally speaking, the type of girl to be interested in like personal finance
and coffee hour.
It's like that's not usually my cup of tea. And a lot of guys, it's actually incredible the amount. If I post a picture of myself on my Instagram, I'll get so many guys hit it.
Looking
not a single
good,
girl.
Jack.
Oh, thank you, man. You too. You too.
No, I was explaining what they would say. Oh. But yeah, you do look good.
Oh, thanks. You too, man. I got to know the anti-aging routine you do.
Be Asian. That's the anti-aging routine.
So
Asians
it's not possible.
Raisin. Yeah. But dude, I mean, I want to talk about a number of things. One is the podcast. I mean, I remember I was like one of Graham's first episodes back before it was called the Iced Coffee Hour even originally.
Mm-hmm.
It was back at his house in California, and man, it was crazy. And then, I've been on a few times since, and just to see the growth, and you guys have had like Jordan Peterson and PBD and Ramsey and all these guys, and I've had some of those guys too. Like, what has been your guys' approach to all this? Are you guys just chasing bigger and bigger guests? Like at some point, I mean, what else can you get? I mean, there's like Elon and Trump and like what else is out there?
Yeah. So I would say for podcasts, there's kind of two separate categories. There are many categories, but you can mainly divide it into two, which is a guest-centric podcast and a host-centric podcast. So you have podcasts like Bad Friends that has like Bobby Lee on it or whatever. And those will do well every single episode because people tune in for the host.
Right.
And you have guest-centric podcasts like Diary of a CEO, Iced Coffee Hour, Chris Williamson, etc., where people mainly tune in for the guest. Mm-hmm. Or at least the interaction between the guest and the host.
Yeah, the host isn't totally just nobody cares about the host.
No, of course. Yeah, people will care about the host. But people mostly want to either see the host interacting with the guest or they're a fan of the guest.
Yeah.
And so we're more of a guest-centric podcast. So yeah, it does matter who we have on the show.
Yeah. I mean, is that your job? Because I don't see Graham just doing guest outreach.
No, I mean, we have a lot of different ways that we reach out to these people. We have a booking agent that we pay a fee. The fee, we've never paid someone to come on the Iced Coffee Hour, and we've never been paid to have a guest on the show, but we do have someone who's a booking agent that kind of reaches out to the booking agent of other people that are looking for media.
Yeah.
And we'll pay her like a small fee if she is able to find us someone or contact the booking agent of a guest for the show.
Got it. Has that led to a lot of these big people or just more medium-sized people?
Yeah, sure. I mean, people we've got through the booking agent. We got Bobby Lee through the booking agent. We got Andrew Callahan from Channel 5 from the booking agent. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. A lot of the massive people that we've had on the show, like Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, PBD, like we're more kind of in that ecosystem. And so we usually have mutuals. Yeah, we're somewhat well established, I feel like, and we have mutuals that we could just reach out through.
Got it. Okay. So one thing that's been interesting too about your pod is you guys are traveling a lot more, which is weird because like you were saying, you and Graham don't really go out.
No.
And never have. Like it's just not your thing. The podcast is in Graham's house still. But you've had success bringing, people to Vegas, and like, we're here in Vegas too. So it's easy. Like all my guests are like, oh dude, I'm going to be in Vegas. I'm like, sick, just roll through. So like Vegas has helped a lot, but I have noticed that, man, a lot of these big people, they're just so busy. And if they're in Vegas, then they're already busy with whatever they got going on. And, in order to go get them, you really got to go fly out and make it happen. A
lot of those people, they will time block their days in like 15-minute increments.
Yeah.
And so when we want to even travel to them and work completely around their schedule, they'll be like, oh yeah, 2 months out on this date at this time for 90 minutes. And then we're like, can we please have 2 hours? And they're like, we'll see. And then maybe we'll get 2 hours out of them, and they show up on time and they leave on time. They're very like, when you talk to these high level people, the lives that they live are incredibly meticulous. They calculate things down to like the minute.
Yeah. Do you think that it's too late to start a podcast?
Absolutely not. No, I've seen so many people start podcasts and just explode over the course of like a month, 2 months, 3 months. Matan Evan is a guy who he did have a bit of a platform before, but his podcast has just absolutely exploded. And he started it maybe a year or so ago. It's more of a comedy style podcast, but there are plenty of examples of people that have started podcasts and exploded them recently.
What do you think about like business people who want to start one for their business? Do you think it's a viable strategy today?
Yeah, I would say it's a viable strategy, but it's the same thing as the answer to the same question about starting a YouTube channel 4 or 5 years ago, which is like, yes, you can start it. You do kind of have to be exceptional. It's hard to treat it like a side hustle, because if you treat it like a side hustle, you'll probably get side hustle results. And you got to kind of go all in, and you have to know what you're doing. So it's like the amount that you want to go into it, the amount of skill, the amount of effort, all of that stuff is incredibly important if you do want to blow up.
I had Ty Lopez in here. Maybe a month or two ago. And I know you've had him on a few times, and him and I were just talking about how much more costly it is to start a brand today, a personal brand, which, a podcast is a way to do that. And he's just like, man, I mean, you look at 10 years ago, significantly easier, to run ads, to go do content. There's less competition. And then, I know when I started 5 years ago during COVID, it's a totally different ballgame. TikTok was easy. Reels hadn't even started yet. YouTube had way less people in it. It was like Graham and Kevin, and that was it. And then like now you're in this game 5 years later, and it's just way more competitive. Like you said, you got to be exceptional. It's no like, oh, I think I'll just pick up my phone and make YouTube videos. Like that ain't gonna work. You got to like jump into it, because there's like this raised standard of quality.
Unless if you're incredibly lucky. Because some people do that and they luck out, but for the most part,
we ain't playing luck. We're playing like, if we're going to do this, variables. What are we going to do?
Yes. Yeah. And there's so many platforms now that just from a time perspective, to get on every single platform and to have quality content on every single platform, it will take an immense amount of time.
Yeah.
So you really got to kind of dial in and work hard.
Yeah. So I think for you, let's talk about your story real quick for those who don't know. I remember meeting you a few years ago as like a guy who was just helping Graham out. And now you've ascended to being the co-host of his podcast, and you have equity in the podcast, and you're making great money now on the podcast. And you were, starting out as like kind of like an intern making nothing. Like how did that go about?
Yeah, I was just a huge fan of him, and I emailed him several times over the course of 4 or 5 months. Finally, he got back to one of them just because I probably emailed him. I got lucky, and one of those last emails I sent was right when he needed help. So he saw that, and he saw the email chain that I had kept up, and been very consistent with. And he's like, well, I kind of like this guy. I see a little bit of myself in him. He got back to me, gave me a small task, and I knocked it out of the water. He tried paying people to do this small task before. No one would even do it, not even if he was paying them. And I just did it for free. And I never wanted to work for an income because I felt like that would kind of pigeonhole me into an assistant role. And I wanted him to see me more as someone who was invested in the success of the business. And I wanted to be seen more as a partner.
How old were you at the time?
Oh man, how old? I don't even know.
What year was this?
2019.
Yeah.
So I was 20, I think.
Okay.
I think I was 20 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
Were you there when I went to his house? I can't remember.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there on like one of the first phone calls that he had with you when he was talking to you about
buying in Vegas.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
So yeah, I was probably 20 years old.
That was about right when you were starting then.
Yeah, that was after I'd moved in with it. So basically the time.
Oh yeah, I do remember you had moved in with him in that house.
The time frame was that I was going to community college, and that's when I was emailing him.
Yeah,
I was also working as a busser at a restaurant. He got back to me, and I was still working as a busser, still living in Ventura, going to Ventura College, community college, and then I went to UCSB. I was still working remotely for him, and this was probably about a year that I was like living away from him, doing remote work, helping out where I could. And I would travel to him in Los Angeles, and I'd help set up production and this and that, and just kind of hang out with him, get to know him. And then in April, when COVID hit, I took a gap year from UCSB and then moved in with him in Santa Monica. And then the next year we moved to Vegas together, and the podcast was started somewhere along the lines. It's a long kind of like,
that's why I'm even trying to remember, but it is crazy to think about now. It's like, because I would have met you guys in like the middle of 2020, which is 5 years ago. It's crazy. It's just crazy thinking about like how fast time goes.
Some of the things I love doing are going back to old episodes of the Iced Coffee Hour and seeing where we were and like the problems that we were facing at that time and how they seem like the biggest deals. And then I think about my life now and I'm like, wow, that just kind of seems like peanuts. Like that does not seem like it would be something that would even keep me up at night. I wouldn't even think twice about it. And also for a lot of the guests that we've had on the show, like they've had explosive careers since we've had them on. A lot of them have 10x their income, 10x their wealth.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to just go back in time and kind of just see where everything was for a brief moment.
And then you've probably also seen people go the opposite direction too.
Yes.
Like
we've seen a lot of downfalls.
It's kind of interesting to just, a lot can happen in 5 years.
A lot can happen in 5 years.
Good,
which is
bad,
also,
plateau.
That's why I'm not a huge fan of goal setting, to be honest, because if you set a goal, especially if you live a life where like decisions are made every single day and you're kind of like working, you never know where you're going to be.
Yeah.
I think it's pointless for me to set a goal even 1 year in the future because I could never guess in a million years where I would be.
Right. That makes sense. I just forgot about this. Did Graham tell you when Cardone and I called him?
No.
Oh, he didn't tell you?
No.
We called him like 2 months ago. So I was with Grant Cardone, and we were filming a pod. And dude, we were in Newport at his villa, so we didn't have any equipment or anything. Like, so my guy brought like these Shure mics, and we had to hold them because we're just sitting on the couch. And Grant's like, "Why are we holding these? Like, this is ghetto. Like, what are we doing?" And I was like, dude, this is what podcasters do. Like, they sit on couches and they hold the mic and they talk and stuff. He's like, who? Name one person that does this. And I was like, and I just started to think, and the first guy I thought of was you and Graham. And I was like, dude, you've been on Graham's show. Like, that's what Graham does. They sit on the couch and they hold the mic. And he was like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I was like, dude, he's like, call him right now. And I was like, I don't think he's going to pick up, but let's just see. And I called him, he picked up. And it was just like this 10-minute call. And he's just like, do you hold the mic like this, Graham? What are you doing?
We do. And people in the comments will be like, it's so disrespectful to your guest to make them hold the mic. I'm like, and what are you doing? You're probably lying down in your bed, like watching this.
Yeah.
We love the people that watch our show.
Yeah.
Let me just say that. I'm just saying like, people will find any reason to hate. Yeah. And also we tell our guests that they're going to be holding it. And the main reason why we do, honestly, is the ones that we shoot in a garage and we want to show all of the cars in the background. If we film with a stand, with a table, that's going to block the view of all of the cars and the cool background. So we do it kind of to show off our guests' accomplishments in cars.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It's funny though, because afterwards, it's just, we started the episode right after that. He's like, all right, so I'm sitting here and they got me a better mic now because we ended up switching to just the lav.
Oh, okay. Well, isn't he a fit guy? Like, doesn't he work out? Like, he can hold a mic, can't he? It's
just Grant. He's just, he just likes messing around. But anyways, yeah, I forgot about that. That made me think of him too. But it's like 5 years ago, I would have never thought social media would do what it's done for my life and business. And I know you probably didn't think you'd be doing what you're doing 5 years, from then at that point. And, now you're this co-host. And I mean, we were talking about, like you said, such little problems, even just a year or two ago. I can't remember the last time you were on, but you were like, man, should I buy my first house? Graham doesn't think I should buy my first house. What'd you end up doing?
Yeah, I bought a house. This was 2021. I bought it at 22 years old. I closed a day before my 23rd birthday, and it was a goal of mine to have a house before I turned 23.
Yeah.
And I live there. I rent out 4 of the rooms to some of my very close friends. It's great.
Yep.
And the rental income pays for the PITI, which is cool.
Yep.
And if some of the variable expenses, I'm probably everything all in, if you include CapEx, maybe out a couple $100 a month, but it's great.
Yeah. Would you say you're still frugal and
no, I wouldn't say I'm frugal. There are certain things like on principle that I still won't pay for, but it's not necessarily out of frugality. If there's something that I want, I'll just buy it.
Do you think that Graham is still frugal?
Yes. Yeah. He's also the same as me where it's like uniquely frugal. Once you make some money and you're comfortable financially, then you'll pick and choose what you want to spend your money on.
Yeah.
And for me, there are certain things that, like, for example, I don't really see any reason to go out and get like $150, $200 steak. I know you disagree with that.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
But I will happily go buy a pickleball paddle if it's $200 or if it's $400. That makes no difference to me.
Yeah. Well, maybe you're more into like a material thing that you can see it has multiple uses.
I think there are just certain things that mean more to me than other people. And I love pickleball. I love sports. And if it's something like that, then it doesn't matter to me because a pickleball paddle you could use for a year or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to get you into golf.
I started getting into golf in October.
Oh.
Yeah.
How's it been going?
So far, pretty good. I mean, I've never broken 100.
Okay.
And it's been some easy.
But you like playing?
I love playing. Yeah. I've been taking a bit of a break because I've been playing a lot more pickleball recently, but there was a time period in there in October, November that I was probably playing golf a full 18 holes 4 or 5 days a week. Do not tell Graham. Do not tell Graham that. He should not know about that.
Dude, 4 or 5 days a week?
Yeah.
Who were you playing with?
Just like my housemates. Some of them, they all
suck?
Yeah. Okay. We all suck at golf. Yeah.
But you guys have fun. That's all that matters.
Yeah. I occasionally I'll get a birdie. I've gotten a chip in before. I was pretty proud of that.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah.
If you've had a birdie, that's huge.
Yeah. The main thing is I just can't keep the balls going straight. I slice every drive.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take you to my course then.
I would love to go. And give me some tips, please.
Yeah. We'll go play. It'll be great. I didn't know you were a golfer now. You should have told me that a long time ago.
I'm getting into it. Yeah. It's ugly though. It's really, I'll send you some videos. You could use them as B-roll. It's ugly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. What's interesting too is like to watch how you keep developing, right? Because, like you said, you grew up, basically Graham's kind of been your mentor and now he's your partner. And you did have like an ultra frugal mindset of like different things. And I'm like, bro, I was always like the other side. I'm like, dude, just buy it. Do this. Invest. Like it's going to work out. And it's just cool to see like, I would say you're very balanced now. You're a much more balanced approach to investing and buying and doing different things.
Thank you. I think that there was this one quote that I heard that really stuck out to me. I wish I could say it exactly as it is, but I think it's something like you should have strong opinions or you should have strong beliefs that are loosely held rather than strongly held something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
There's basically like, you need to have like beliefs that never change, certain beliefs. Like there's like core principles in your life that just, they're not going to change. And then there's other things that everything else is like, hey, I'm open. Like, for example, I'm trying to think of a good way to say this, but everybody has like certain core beliefs that just whether you grew up with them and they're just core to you and you'll never, like, okay, for example, I have core values on my wall out there. Okay. The core values are serve others, play fair, no ego, and train daily. And then the fifth is faith. Okay. But those core values have been up there for 5+ years. They're never going to change. They are core to me. Like, I'm not going to all of a sudden be like one day, hey, I don't think we should actually serve others. That's probably, I was wrong about that. Like, I don't think that we should train daily. We should probably just not work hard. I don't think we should have no ego. We actually need to like now start to operate with lots of ego and lots of arrogance and pride. Like those will just never change. They've been core values of mine ever since decades. Like they're never going to change, right? But a lot of things in my life do change with maybe what I believe is maybe the best opportunity right now. Like, okay, for example, right? People know me as a real estate guy and a house flipper and a guy like that. I would be okay changing one day and saying, hey, you know what? House flipping is actually not great. I would be willing to change that belief because maybe there is something that makes it not great at that point in time. But it doesn't go against my core values and being of what I believe.
I would say most of the time people's values do not change.
Yeah.
I think it is possible for people to change their values.
Oh, it's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you saying it as like a moral statement? Like one should not change their values?
I'm just saying everyone has things that's like your standard for like, okay, so for me, right? The Bible is my standard. I don't know where. Oh, here it is. So the Bible is my standard. And so anything that I am going to like look at as a potential thing in my life, I'm going to like judge it against what does the Bible say about this, right? And if the Bible disagrees with it, then therefore I should not do it. Now, am I perfect? No. Sometimes I'm disobedient,
right?
And I make the wrong decision, even though I know I shouldn't have did it. Okay,
that makes sense.
Right?
It seems like we're delineating between values and beliefs. A value of yours would be to follow the Bible, and then you could have a belief about an interpretation of something from the Bible, and that belief, the interpretation of that value, can change over time. But you will always value the Bible to be the truth.
It's just going to be the foundation of everything else I believe. So it's like serving others comes from the Bible. It's just one aspect of what the Bible teaches. So everybody has like, and for some people it's like, oh, well, this is how my family always did it. This is what my dad always taught me. And they live their life like with that core principle of what their dad or their family taught them. For me, it happens to be faith. And it's usually going to be based upon family or faith on like the values that you have.
Do you feel like you've ever had a value that's changed over time? Like maybe when you were younger?
I'm just trying to think of like an example I would give. I would say one value that's interesting that's changed over time would be I used to think, and this is not what the Bible teaches, it just comes from not understanding the Bible. Okay. But I used to think that like life is all about me, right? It's like, hey, I need to do what's best for me. Like that's common things that people say all the time. I need to, create these goals that are for me. Like what? Okay. I want my business to be worth $100 million. Like, that's a good goal. That's like what a good entrepreneur would do. You would set goals and missions and all these things. Right. And what I realized was it's actually not about me at all, and really like once you start to read the Bible more, you realize it's not about you. It's about God, right? It's like, how can you do what God wants you to do? Right. And what if God wants you to do something that has nothing to do with what you currently do? What do you do? Right. Like, and I realized this as time has gone on in my life of like, well, I always thought that I was going to be a baseball player and that was going to be my life. And that was like what God had put me on this earth to do. And then I'm doing it pretty much for like 25 years. And then all of a sudden it's over. And it's like, wow, like, what is my identity? What am I supposed to do? And then I didn't want to do real estate. I didn't want to do social media. I didn't want to do any of these things. And you look now a decade later and you're like, wow, I'm sure glad I did real estate. I'm sure glad I did social media. I'm sure glad like I was obedient to this other thing. And even now I look at it and I'm like, do I have this desire or goal to be a billionaire or like whatever, right? Or to have the biggest podcast in the world or to whatever normal good goal would be, I now realize that doesn't even matter. All that matters is whatever it is God is calling me to do and be. And as long as I do that, then that's all that matters. So that's like a huge shift in priorities. Because the old priority would have been, hey, let's accomplish the next goal. What does Ryan want? And that's what the world teaches. But the Bible teaches, hey, what is God calling you to do? And what if that's different than what you have wanted?
That's interesting. And so maybe something happened where you just decided to take faith to a more serious degree.
100%. Yeah, like what if God was like, hey, Jack, you know, and we could even talk about faith because that was something that we were talking about last time. But like, what if God was like, and you heard it audibly, and God was like, hey, Jack, you should actually stop being the co-host of the Iced Coffee Hour. That'd be like a really tough thing to understand, right? And then it's like, well, I want to be. I love doing this, and you know, it's great for the career, and it's what provides my income. And like, I worked really hard for this, and you could come up with all the reasons why you shouldn't do that. But then it would just take faith for you to say, okay, I'll take faith and you know, go down this other path. And I don't know where it's going to lead, but I know you're going to keep providing. And like, I can say that's what happened to me because baseball would have been the Iced Coffee Hour for me. And once it was over, I had no path. I had not done anything in real estate. I had not done anything on social media. I didn't know where I was going to go. Literally, I spent my entire life playing baseball. That was the only skill I had. And now I can see with hindsight, a decade later of like, oh, this path was way better.
Would you say that that was like the lowest point was when you realized?
Easily the lowest point.
Of your entire life?
Yeah. When I got released by the Oakland A's, that was the lowest point of my life. Because it was like my dream was over. And I was 20, about to be 24 years old. I was about to get married. I thought I was going to get into the big leagues and like that was going to be my career and how I make money and be famous and all this stuff. And then they released me and it was over. And literally I'm like, I have no plan. I've never done anything else in my life. I have no other skill set. What am I supposed to do?
It's so interesting because we see people that hit very low lows and then they could choose one of two paths. One is to like pick it up and keep going. And then one is to not do that. And I always wonder if that's like a biological predisposition or if that was the way that you were raised maybe with your family and they taught you these values of, you know, picking yourself up when you're down and keeping along. But I'm not entirely sure which one it is.
Yeah.
It seems like it's kind of just like a random, you know, you can never predict it.
Yeah. And I would even just say like with my situation in particular, it wasn't that God was like, I just heard, hey, quit baseball. Mm-hmm. It was just taken from me because I would have never quit. It was like, you're actually, this is.
But you think you needed to quit probably?
Well, I mean, my life is significantly better today, 10 years later. Mm-hmm. Just fulfillment wise, joy wise, way more joyful, way more fulfilled. I get to help way more people. You know, I've got my family, I'm married, you know, got all these kids. I love running this business. I can go run business now for forever. Like business is something I'll just play the game of business the rest of my life. You know, sports is awesome. I love playing golf now and I love competing, but like to say I truly love baseball the same way I love everything else I do right now is not true.
Is there anything that you really want out of life right now that you don't necessarily have or anything you want to do that you haven't done?
No, I can't say there is. Like I've achieved more in business than like I thought I would ever achieve. And obviously I want to keep, so what I want to say is like, I always want to get better. Mm-hmm. Right. But if you were like,
but it doesn't feel like a part of you's lacking is kind of where.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, no, I'm good. Even if business stayed doing what it's doing, I'm good. If social media was just this and that's what it ended up being. I'm good. If, even if we have no more kids and like, this is our family, like I'm good. My health, I'm good. Like, I don't need to be like some huge bodybuilder. Like I'm good. So I think that's kind of the part. It's like, I'm content with how life has played out, but I'm not content in the sense that, or I'm not complacent.
Yes.
I'm content, but not complacent.
That sounds like it's probably the best place to be.
Yeah. Cause I think a lot of people too operate from, this place of they're never content, right? Because they're fearing of like, oh, I don't want to get complacent. Like I got to keep growing and growing. And then they're just unhappy during this growth.
That is also true. Yeah. Sometimes I worry a little bit about Graham in that way. And it's not like I'm revealing anything that's a secret right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Graham definitely seems like he's either chasing towards something or running away from something a lot of the time. Sometimes I get little glimmers of where he's like kind of in his zone and he's tinkering with his aquarium or he's doing something and he just seems at peace and very like happy and fulfilled. But I always try to kind of figure out, which as just a good friend of his, what are the best ways I can help him?
Yeah. And that's, I think most people are like that. It's not just like a Graham thing. Very few people are truly like living in peace and joy in the world today. I mean, if you just think about it, so many people are struggling in life with financial problems, right? I mean, what's the statistic of how many Americans are like way in debt or living paycheck to paycheck? It's over half of America, right? So it's like, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's really hard to live in joy just from that standpoint, right? And then you have all the other problems of the world. So we have marriage problems, we have kids problems, we have identity problems, we have business problems, we have health problems. Like there's so many problems in the world. So to be truly content and at peace and have joy with so many things coming at you, it takes a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting to differentiate between being at peace and having joy and being content, because I do think that those are different things. I think that a lot of people are surprisingly content with their life, and the price for mediocrity is not very high nowadays. Back in the day, if you were mediocre with your life and you were living above your means, or you weren't making a bunch of money and you weren't providing the things that you wanted to provide for your family, if your child gets sick, they could pass away. Something really bad can happen. The consequence of mediocrity was very high.
Yeah.
And you compare that to the life of the king back in the day, and their lives were completely different. Now you take the lives of someone who's ultra wealthy, super famous, Leonardo DiCaprio or something like that, and someone living out of their parents' basement, still 20% of their lives are going to be exactly the same. Probably a fifth of it is on their phone. And then, another 30% is them sleeping. And so you have like 50% of their lives are virtually the same. Leonardo DiCaprio and the people living in their parents' basement. And so there's not a whole lot of difference there, and they can both get dopamine and exist and be content. But I don't think it's like a joyous life necessarily.
Yeah. And Leonardo, who knows? He may not even have joy or peace, right? Just doing whatever he's doing, right? So it's this thing, and it all comes back down to faith, right? At the end of the day, my belief is that all of this just stems down to how you feel about where things, like why things are the way they are. It's like, I have a belief of why the world is the way it is, why we have all these problems. It's called sin. And then I also have a belief of what happens after this world's over, after our life ends. And it's like, if you have faith / certainty in that, then it makes your days of living throughout it much simpler. Like if you knew that the iced coffee hour, like you're going to have this great result for all the time you're putting into it, all the work and everything else. Like you'll enjoy the work while it's happening, but it's the hope of what the channel and everything else can become that also pushes you through the hard times, right? So the good times are good, but then like you need hope to get you through the hard times. Because if the hard times have no hope, you wouldn't keep doing it. You'd be like, this has no future. What's the point of going through this hard time? There is no breakthrough that's going to happen. And so I think faith is like that way, but in the macro level of all this. It's like, yeah, the iced coffee hour, is it going to last forever? Odds are no. Is this podcast going to last forever? Odds are no. I mean, I don't think we're going to be doing this 40 years from now, probably. So what's the point? And it's the macro that starts to get you through all of the little day-to-day things and troubles of this.
That's really interesting. I hear about faith pushing you through harder times in the micro quite often. I mean, I heard Dave Ramsey say something that I thought was really insightful when he said, you only plant seeds for your crops if you have faith that if you do everything right, You water them, they get enough sunlight that eventually they'll grow into something. If you didn't have any faith that you were going to put in all of this effort and there would be no yield, you wouldn't do it in the first place.
Exactly.
And he was kind of applying that more so to like working hard, saving money, getting out of debt, et cetera, et cetera. You do the right things and you should have good results. People just don't believe that if they do the right things, that good results will happen.
Yeah. And that's the point I'm making about the iced coffee hour and the work you put in to now have the results you have. But you also have faith that if you continue putting in the work, you'll continue getting at least the same results, if not better, right? So you're motivated to put in the work.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, though, have never had success. They've never actually yielded a crop. And so they have no hope. And that's where life gets really hard, is when you don't have hope.
I agree. And I think for me, success has been incredibly important to me. Like some people are like, you know, once I feel like I could prove to myself that I was able to live a life that I was really happy about, like I realized it was all the same the entire time. I disagree. I think now that this is something that honestly, my life otherwise would have been I would have suffered a lot more, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I actually find myself becoming more like Ramsey and even Graham to a degree, because you know, you live on this life of optimism and everything else where things are always going to get better year over year. And that's what happened in my life year over year for many, many years in a row. And then you have your first setback and you make less. Things don't go your way. You deal with all this stuff and you're like, wow, okay. You can't plan as if things are always going to get better, at least financially, right? And now I find myself, and then also too, once you've like experienced so many nice things, you're like, yeah, it still feels the same. You know, it's like, I don't necessarily need this big of a house. I don't necessarily need to have multiple cars. I don't necessarily need to have, you know, the materialistic things. I've never regretted any of the vacations or experiences we've paid for. Like those have always been worth it. But the materialistic things, I've now realized, at least for me anyways, I'm just like, whatever.
So what materialistic things do you think are still worthwhile spending money on?
I mean, for everybody, it's going to be different based on your budget. But so like for me, if I'm going to go get new golf clubs, I'm going to go do it. Like, it's just that's all good. Now, granted, the cool thing is when you do social media, you get a lot of it for free. So like, it doesn't cost me anything to get new golf clubs, which is great. But like, okay, cars, I don't really care for cars. I never really did, but when you get money, you're like, oh, well, I guess like you get a nice car. This is just like the thing to do. So, you know, I bought a $200,000 Porsche Taycan, you know, the top one. And I had it for years. And dude, there's nothing wrong with the car, but I ended up selling it because I'm just like, I don't really need this, you know? Watches, another one, right? Like I still have a couple of watches, but I don't have a bunch of them. You know, the house I live in, it's a, you know, $4 million home. It's great. But I'd be fine. Like, I don't need I don't want a $500,000 home, but I'm good with like a $2 million home. So it's still like a high standard of living, but it's just like, I definitely don't need a $10 million home or a $20 million home. Like I've kind of found like, yeah, this is, I don't know. It's kind of finding your minimum standard of what, to your point, there's like this jump of, okay, I don't want to drive a Toyota Camry. Like, nothing against it. We've had them. My wife drove a Camry for a long time. But like at this current place in my life, okay, yeah, I don't want to drive that, but like I'm good with like a Tesla Model X. And that's it. And I don't need a Ferrari. I don't need a whatever.
I agree with that. I think that there is serious law of diminishing returns.
That's what's happening. It's a diminishing return to go from this to that.
Yes. Past a certain point, absolutely. Couldn't agree with that anymore. Like if I could have any car that I wanted in the world right now, I'd probably take like a Plaid Model S or a Plaid X, something like that. Yeah, exactly. So that's like anything more than that. Do I really want like a new Lambo, a Ferrari or something like that? Honestly, no, not at all. That kind of seems like a hassle.
Yeah, I agree. And even then, like even just you start thinking about liabilities too. So I used to be actually super frugal before all this. And I would always look at car payments. I would look at mortgages, and I would just like, whatever. And then you start making money. You're like, oh, well, it's irrelevant in the grand scheme of how much we're making. Like, what's a $3,000 car payment? It's nothing. And then things go south, and you're like, no, it's actually something. Like, I think I've stopped wasting money.
That's good.
I think you waste, or me anyways, and I think this happens to everyone. You start making more money than you've ever made, you waste just as a natural thing. And so getting back to like, hey, you know what? I don't mind spending money on things that I like, but I want to be more, not conservative, but just more intentional.
Yeah, I think being intentional about money is extremely important. What I wonder about is what caused you to waste the money in the first place. Like it was just a simple byproduct of making more money, because I've never really felt that way. And I don't think Graham has either, but I think Graham and I are for a little bit different reasons.
Yeah, I think it's also, I think wasting money comes from, well, I think there's a couple of things. So you'll get people who have no money, like habits or savviness, and they win the lotto, they become a professional athlete, like those kinds of people, and they go bankrupt instantly, right? Like that's a different thing than what I'm talking about or what I've done. I think that for me, I was super frugal because I never had anything. I was making $1,200 a month as a minor leaguer. So it was ingrained in my mind to not spend, period. You know, when I got married, I had no job. I just got released. She had no job. She's in college. We had no support from our parents. So we lived our first however many years of marriage, literally like grinding it. And so that's kind of what made me who I am. And so by the time I started making money, we were just ultra frugal. I mean, I remember my second year flipping houses, I made $200,000. We were living off like $3,000 a month still. And I was just like, yeah, we'll just take that money and reinvest it into more deals. And then I remember my third year, I made $750,000 flipping houses. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like how much money we're making. We could maybe spend like $6,000 a month. You know, it's like 10% of my income. And you know, so then it just starts to become like, oh, well, you know, if we spend a couple thousand here and a couple thousand, like we're still so far beyond what our income is. And that just kept pushing up and up and up and up. And then, you know, as time goes on, you just realize like, oh, dang, like this got inflated really fast, getting more loose. It's like how you get out of shape too. It's like, dude, if I'm super strict with my macros for the longest time and I'm always in shape, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm in really good shape. Like I'll have a donut here. I'll have this here. And then that becomes a donut every day. You don't even realize how quickly something becomes a habit. And then all of a sudden you're like, why am I soft? It's like, well, dude, you eat a donut every day. Of course you're soft.
That makes sense. And I think a lot of people do that. And it seems like you still did it to a pretty responsible degree if it was still like, such a small percentage.
I hold myself to high standards. So I'm just like, I know where I could get better. And I don't know. I think a lot of people, so I guess this brings me back to full circle. So I was like super conservative, never spent anything, to then still being pretty conservative, but you know, making a lot of money. And then to, all right, now I'm gonna start spending some money, and I'm not like crazy. I don't have 7 cars or anything, but like still spending like maybe more than I should, to now being like, you know what? Throughout the whole journey, my peace and happiness never changed. In fact, having more things causes more headaches. Like I see why people are minimalist and other things, because like it truly does. It's like, dang, I got like multiple golf memberships. I got multiple things over here and that and this. And you're like, yeah, I see why it matters. Actually, I asked Dave Ramsey this. I was like, Dave, you know, I get it. You don't like debt. I don't mind debt. You know, we flip houses with debt. We buy apartments. We do everything with debt. I was like, but tell me how it's any different. Like let's say my monthly obligations for all of our debt in real estate and all my employees and staff and everything else, it's hundreds of thousands a month. Okay. That's technically a debt, even the employees and stuff too. I go, you guys have like 1,000 employees. I mean, your monthly obligations to me is kind of like a debt because you owe it every month, whether the business makes money or not. And, you guys are paying out millions a month to run the business. I'm like, how is that really any different? And, he said, well, because I can get rid of them. He's like if things go south, like we can cut. Because that's the difference. With debt and everything else, you can't just get rid of it. And it's true. I learned that. Like if I have all these houses and all these things with all this debt and, all these like cars, they're not just so easy to cars may be a little bit easier, but like real estate doesn't just sell tomorrow. It takes time for real estate to liquidate and everything else. But yeah, like running your business, you can change anything tomorrow. Hey, we're going to lay off people. Hey, we're going to cut marketing. Hey, we're going to cut this expense, this subscription, whatever, right? Like you can control the debt instantly.
That's really interesting. It seems like your perspective on this is a lot more well-rounded than it was in the past, because beforehand you seemed very extreme in this direction. And then after you made a bunch of money, you seemed a little bit more extreme in this direction. One would even argue potentially dogmatic in both directions.
Yeah.
Like when you were here, like, this is the only way, this is how you should be doing it.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of like, well, I've been there, I've been here. Yep. And now this is kind of the conclusion I've came to. Yeah. So it seems like good growth.
Yeah. And maybe a guy like Ramsey just stayed over there.
Maybe a guy like Ramsey just stayed over there. I will give Dave the benefit of the doubt. While numbers don't agree with him, in terms of on a case-by-case basis, numbers do not agree. Like I use debt effectively. If you look broadly speaking, is debt good for the average person? No, I disagree. I don't think it's good for the average person. So if he has just take it law of big numbers, a billion people listening to him, those people on average will be better off than a billion people not listening to him and taking on debt. Yeah.
No, I agree with that. My thing is like entrepreneurs by default are mostly going to always take on debt. You're going to raise money to start a company. I don't think
he's talking to entrepreneurs.
No, I know.
Mostly.
And that's the point. It's like, he's talking to normal W-2 people who have credit card debt and bad debt, and they're not using debt effectively. They're using it for stupidity. And yeah, it gets you into a problem.
Yeah. I think one thing that I've said before, but I'm so lucky, is I just don't really care about having nice things. And I never have. Like the nicest things that I have that I love are...
What are you going to do if your future wife does?
If I can afford it, then she can have it. But also,
so there we go.
But also, like, I can't imagine that she would.
Yeah, you don't think you'll marry that person?
No, because I don't find it logical to want a Gucci shirt that's $900. Yeah, I think you're buying the shirt because it says Gucci.
By the way, I used to say that too. And now I got all these Louis Vuitton things, and they're pretty nice.
I buy everything from Costco. And I love it. Granted, these are pretty fancy. These are Vuori or whatever.
Yeah, and this is Vuori. This is nice.
They make great clothes, but never anything like to the super high-end market. Like I just don't find it.
That's how
I've never had a Versace shirt. So maybe that's what I'm missing.
That's how I started. I started buying like Lululemon and like $100 things. And I never bought any of that. I would always buy discount clearance Nike stuff all the time. And then eventually I'm like, dude, this shirt's nice. This quality's good. Like, this is great. And then you're buying $100 sweaters and $150 pants. And then all of a sudden, you make a little bit more money and you're like, oh, well, these shoes would be good for like, speaking on stage or going to fancy events. And, if we're going to go interview Ben Shapiro at this gala or something, I need to get something nice.
Yes, I could see that end up happening and not having an effect on me. But like 95%, I'm the exact same person now that I was beforehand. Maybe a little bit less stressed. And yeah, like
at this current point in your life as a 26-year-old.
Yeah.
You're going to do like adult things one day.
Well, I bought a Tesla. So that was, that was me living it up. And that's super nice. I love that. But I also just love
I know. You may never want to buy. And by the way, I used to never, I'd be like, why the heck is anyone buying these stupid $1,000 shirts? This is the dumbest thing. You're buying a $3,000 bag. This is just dumb. And then I own them. And I'm just like, I'm either dumb or it's just not I don't know. I don't even know why I started buying them in the beginning, to be honest with you.
I genuinely...
You know what happened? I got gifted them. At first, and then you start using it and you're like, dang, this is like...
Well, I've been gifted nice things too. Yeah.
But like I got gifted my first pair of Louis Vuitton, shoes and things, and like got gifted, I've been gifted, $5,000 like things, jacket. And I'm like, dude, I can see why this is I'm like, this is super nice. And
I've been gifted 2 Rolexes. I've not bought a Rolex since I've been gifted 2 Rolexes.
And you wear it and you're like, I see why this is worth what it's worth.
I don't wear them too often. I love them. Yeah. I love looking at them.
What are you wearing right now?
A Casio. A $15 Casio. And I love this. I think this is cool. Like I love the bracelet.
So, but do you just wear the Rolex on like a nice occasion then?
Yeah, on a nice occasion. Yeah. And I do really love them. Shout out to the people, Noah Kagan, Liver King. Thank you guys.
Oh yeah, I forgot Liver King gave you the one on the show.
Yeah, they've both given me Rolexes. So I can't believe it. Like the generosity of that.
Why did Noah give you one?
Because we did a podcast episode with him and he said if he gets reached out to buy like a girl and he gets a girlfriend from the episode, then he'll give us both Rolexes. So that did happen. And then he gave us both Rolexes.
Yeah. Last time he was here, she was pregnant and.
Oh, he's killing it.
Yeah. They moved or something.
He's one of the great ones. I love Noah. Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But he had just written his book.
But if I'm going to be honest, I genuinely think that there's a switch in my brain that's just off and it will never be turned on, which is caring about the nice things.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's like, I'm like 10% on the spectrum. I think I'm like 0%.
If we were to go back to your original question of can your beliefs change, that would be like one of those ones where I'm like, yeah, that for sure. Like I thought that was so dumb. And then here I am, with it. Like that did change for me. I was literally the exact same as
but it's not that I think
and
it's dumb.
You have Rolexes and things way before I did.
Yeah. I don't even know if I think it's dumb. It's just that I just don't care. I don't care.
No,
like,
I was both.
I'm completely apathetic to it.
Yeah. I was like, it's dumb and I don't want it. They were both like in my thought.
It could change. Who knows? And if it does change, you got me.
What size shoe do you wear, Jack? Let's corrupt you.
10 to 11, 10 and a half.
Yeah, I'm a 10 and a half too.
Okay.
Man, that's a shame. I guess I might have to give you one of my pairs.
What makes these shoes so good?
Nothing. But I'm going to give you one.
And you think that it's just going to completely...
No, I don't even want to... Actually, you know what? I don't want to corrupt you. I'm not going to give you it.
Okay.
Unless you want it as a gift.
It depends, like if they're comfortable.
Yeah. Well, we won't I'm not going to... You know what? Here's the deal. I'll give you one of my old ones.
Okay.
So that way it's like, hey, if I don't like them, whatever,
Sure.
They're old.
I'll wear them. They're 10 and a half?
Yeah.
I'll wear them and I'll shoot you a text of me wearing them and I'll let you know if I like them.
Wear them with your Rolex, only like on nice occasions.
Okay.
Also, actually, somebody in the comments would say this, but they're, what's it called? They're European. So they're not technically 10 and a half.
44 something.
I don't know. I forget what they are.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm a 10 and a half. So whatever you need is what they are.
Okay, cool. I can give you some shoes too. If you want
they're
some,
8 and a half European, if I remember correctly.
8 and a half. I'm pretty sure they're like in the 40s.
I don't know what they do.
I could be wrong.
I really can't tell you.
I could be wrong here.
I was going to actually ask you something about just all these guests. So, you mentioned Liver King gave you that and Noah gave you that and, all these different things. What do you think's been the biggest takeaway from these guests that you've had?
It's weird because they obviously say things during the episode that I learn a lot from and maybe like something will hit. You can hear virtually the same information 1,000 times, but maybe one way that it's phrased will actually like trigger something within you. And so at this point, I feel like I've heard general ideas of things 1,000, 10,000 times through all the books I've read, the podcasts I've watched, and then randomly one thing will be phrased a certain way and it will just switch within me. But honestly, I think not necessarily from things they've said on the podcast, but I think like just observing them as a human, I've learned a whole lot more that way. Because generally speaking, if we have someone on the show, not only, have they like accomplished cool things and this and that, but they also just have their own completely unique perspective. Like they are not within one standard deviation of humans on this earth.
Yeah.
They have something about them that is exceptional or just completely unique.
Okay, I want to go about it in both directions. I want one thing that you like was mind blowing that completely shifted how you saw something and like changed your maybe belief. And then I want something that you completely disagreed with and you're like, I don't know what they were thinking. Like I ain't about that.
Sure. Let me think though about this for a second because I want to make sure it's a good answer.
Yeah.
Something that I disagreed with. I'm going to go through I'd have to look at who we've had on the show.
All right. While you're doing that, I'll share some of mine.
Sure.
With just different experiences I've had. So let me preface by saying a lot of what I learned from guests happen outside of the show.
Yeah.
So, the show is whatever, 90 minutes and, it's great. We talk, we pick brains, whatever, right? But so much of what I learned ends up being the relationship after the fact and, doing business or different things. And so, I'll tell you, one of the things that completely shifted how I thought about my business was when a guy named Russell Brunson came in. You guys have never had him. You should. He's great. He's the founder of ClickFunnels. And he said something that was so simple yet so profound. And I was like, Russell, you guys have done so much in the marketing space and everything else. What is like the number one marketing strategy right now that you think people aren't taking advantage of? Is it like Facebook ads? Is it TikTok? Is it, that's what I was looking for. He's like, it's none of those things. I was like, then what is it? He goes, it's just optimization. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, think about it, dude. If you're going to pay all this money for people to come to your, landing page and your website and everything else, what if you could optimize the landing page? Like, what if you could get double the clicks on your landing page? What would that do for any marketing? Well, it would double your leads. Now your cost per lead just went in half. Now your revenue just doubled, all because you changed the landing page. And he goes, I look at so many people's landing pages and things and they suck. They're so unoptimized and everything else. And he's like, if they would just optimize the page, they don't even have to spend any more money. They would just double their thing. And I'm like, that's crazy. I've never even thought about looking at my landing page in that kind of way of like, man, let's tweak this thing to make it fully optimized. And I think the same kind of advice goes to YouTubers. I mean, they do the same thing. Like we spend, not me, I should, but I don't, but I know you guys do. You'll spend so much time on your thumbnail and your title, just truly optimizing that because if you get that right, it just crushes for the video. But if you get it wrong, it doesn't matter how good the video was because nobody's clicking. And so I've just kind of thought about that a lot in my life with just this thing of optimizing like the most important thing. And you should spend so much time optimizing for whatever it is that your business does that, produces the most income or views or revenue or whatever. So that was a big mind shift for me.
And it's funny because kind of, as I said beforehand, the same thing can be said 1,000 times, but the way it's phrased in one way can actually flip the switch in your brain. And that right there, you've heard it a million times, is the 80-20.
Yeah.
20% of the results or 20% of the effort put into 20% of your business will result in 80% of the yield. You should focus on that 20%. You've heard that a billion times, right?
Yeah.
But the way that he phrased the same idea is, for some reason, it was more impactful.
Yeah.
In terms of things that I disagree with, I would say I disagreed with Don Lemon. Like I couldn't tell if he truly believed what he said he believed on our show. And it seemed like whenever I said something that like clearly meant this, but could be interpreted as this, he would take it as this, what it could be interpreted as, not what necessarily the raw data of what I was saying was intended to be, what it was intended to mean. And so I don't know. It's hard to say because generally speaking, the people that we have on the show, I like, and I tend to find the good in people for the most part. And if you're on the show, like I've found good in you. So it's hard to say like a fundamental thing, but that was one thing that I still to this day can't really figure out, and I disagree with it. Yeah, it was more of like it's better I'm right and you're wrong than it is that we find truth. But I could be wrong here.
So was he just disagreeing with everything you guys said?
No, like I would say something.
Like give an example.
Sure. I would say something
Real estate investors, I found a brand new way to create cash flow that's better than anything else I've ever done. It's better than rental properties, Airbnb, my flipping business, multifamily. It's the best thing we've done yet. It is building an automated wholesale business. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how do you build an automated wholesale business? Well, what if you had the same exact leads that I get every single month? What if you had a sales script that was so easy to close deals over the phone that you could do it all across the country? And what if you could sell your deals directly on the MLS without a real estate license and without having to actually own the property and getting top dollar? Well, we do that with this new method. And I made an 11-minute video where I go over how it all works, how you can start doing it today. So if you want to go see that video, go to wealthyinvestor.com, go click the case study and see what I'm talking about.
That was like a clear fact that everyone's talking about. And then he would say, oh, I haven't heard about that. But to me, it's something that he's a journalist, you know what I mean? And he was asking for me to identify these things that I'm not a journalist. I'm just a guy that pays a little bit of attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
And if you as a journalist don't know what I'm talking about, it's either you exist in an echo chamber that has no idea what's actually happening, or you're just choosing to try to just push me and budge me wherever you can. The specifics of it was mostly around his conversation with Elon Musk and DEI, and how Harvard had this huge lawsuit that got taken to the Supreme Court. And I could be paraphrasing here about them decreasing their standards for certain people, and how if you were of this ethnicity, you only needed to perform this on the SAT to get admitted. Yeah. And this is ethnicity, you needed to, for example, Asian people were hindered because there's a lot of Asian people that get into Harvard.
Yeah.
And so you had to perform better as an Asian person to get into the elite schools. And I was bringing this up to him and he says he's never heard of that. I was like, well, this is a Supreme Court case. This is something that as a journalist, when you're talking on the other side of something like this, you should probably be aware of the main pillar of the argument for the other side.
Yeah. So he was just like, oh, I never heard of it. That was what he kept saying?
Yeah. I mean, whoever's editing this, they can go into the iced coffee hour and we put up, I remember an image of the Supreme Court case filing of this exact thing that we were talking about. And this was massive on the news. It was trending on Twitter.
Yeah.
But at the time, he had apparently never heard of it. So that's one of those things. It's I try to see the good, and I part of me does believe him. Maybe he just hasn't seen it. And then part of me is just I just don't get that. It doesn't make sense.
I mean, it could be claiming ignorance just so you don't have to defend a point you can't defend.
Mm-hmm. But we don't know. We're not inside of Don Lemon's head.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Something that someone said to me that I completely agreed with and I thought was impactful was Michael Reeves, I thought was an incredibly impressive person, because...
Who is he for those who don't know?
Michael Reeves makes videos. He's a YouTuber who assembles gadgets, makes entertainment content around really silly things. For example, he had a video where he what would be a good Michael Reevesian video? He had a goldfish pick out his stocks.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he would make these awesome videos like that, and he's probably making a killing, but he only makes one video per year. And while yes, and it gets 10 million views.
That's crazy.
And while he could be making multiple videos per year and making way more money and optimizing for income and this and that and providing security for his future self and this, all of these things that I had built up to be very important in my brain, he was like, yeah, but I don't want to. And for me, that was a little bit shocking, because I'm like, well, how could you think otherwise? On paper, it makes sense to optimize and to hire out a team and to be doing, but he edits his videos himself.
Yeah.
And he's a celebrity. He goes out in public and he gets recognized left and right. You could argue
one video a year.
Yes. You could argue that his ROI in terms of appearing on camera is 100x more important than his ROI of editing his videos.
Oh, for sure.
And yet he still won't do that. He won't hire it out.
If you only do one, I get it. You can't even hire it out. You do one a year.
I know. Well, he'll go months without working.
I know. But I'm just saying, who are you going to hire on staff? They're like, so what you going to do? No. All right. I guess I have nothing to do.
My guess is each video probably makes him a few $100,000. Yeah. 200,000, anywhere between 150 grand and 400 grand, 500 grand. That's my best guess is how much he makes per year. And it's just one video per year. And he optimizes for just what he wants to do in life, which is play Fortnite with his friends and hang out and drive a beater truck.
He's like, dude, as long as I make one banger a year.
Yeah.
I get the life I want.
But he's incredibly successful. So he must know something that I don't. But I really liked that. Yeah, I really did.
That makes sense.
It's like, the main idea is like being that free thinker. Like the entire society will tell you to think this one way and he'll just be like, I don't care. Like this is just the way that I feel. And he won't just like follow the sheep.
That makes sense. That kind of goes in line with some of the things I've disagreed with people on my show. It's always kind of the same thing. It's like why I wrote my book, Wealthy Way. So it's basically like the same idea that, you know, at some point enough's enough. Like you don't have to go make $1 million in his case or 10 million or whatever. Right. But like I bring in very highly successful and highly driven entrepreneurs, like as the main guest on this show. And so for many of them, they don't know any other way to operate or live. And, you know, I actually had one of my friends, and he's awesome. And his name's Tommy Mello. You guys should definitely have him on too. He sold his company A1 Garage Doors about 3 years ago for $600 million. But he sold half of it. And now he still has half, and they're going to go sell for $1 billion or go public and like biggest garage door company in the world. And we were just talking about, because he's young, he's in his 30s. And I think he just recently was married. And he's like, yeah, you know, I think at some point, you know, I'm going to be able to start golfing and doing those things more. I'm like, why at some point? Like, why not now? He's like, well, and then, you know, you just start to think about it. And he's like, you know what? You're probably right. Like I could do it. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like if I had 600 million, like I would also be kind of doing whatever I want too. And like, it's one thing if you do want to just keep working, like that's one thing, but you don't have to. Right. And I think he walked away like very like thoughtfully considering like, okay, what would be the next steps if this is something I want to now do, right? And most don't ever really, that's why he's very high level, because he'll actually take feedback and other things, even though like I've done nothing that he's done in business. But he's like, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like I have enough humility to go out and really contemplate that question. But then, you know, you have other people who like, nah, dude, like if I don't conquer the world, then everything's a failure. And I'm like, is it? Like, what does success look like to you? Right? You talked about success and why it's important. It's like, do you even know what success looks like for you? Have you even thought about it at all? Okay. So you're going to go and try and build this thing. So what's the cost for your family? You know, I can see you're not in good shape. What's the cost on your health? What's the cost on your faith? Like, I don't think you're successful. If I'm being honest, my version of success anyways, I wouldn't trade lives. And and this is not about Tommy. This is just in general, like to certain people I've had on over the years. It's like success is so much more, at least in my definition, than having this big business or this big YouTube channel or platform or whatever it is that we're all chasing. And that's the one thing I always try to combat. It's like, I like what that guy, Michael Reeves, is like, that's the point. He truly knows what he's optimizing for. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm going to optimize for that. And that's kind of where I'm at too. I'm like, I'm going to optimize for that. And yeah, I want to do better. I want a business to be better. But if it sacrifices the other things that are important to me, then no, it's not worth it.
I think that's important. And also to be receptive to criticism and open to learning is like so crucial. And a lot of people, they're very, very, very headstrong and they will not change in their ways. But I think that will get in their way.
Well, it's tough when you're successful because what you've been doing works.
Yeah. So works. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's hard for somebody, whether they're above you or below you or anything else, you've had success doing it your way for however long. And it's like somebody comes in with a different perspective. It's like, dude, that ain't it. But they've been doing it so long and maybe over time they'll realize it's not the way. I remember actually, you just brought this up. Even with Graham, I'd be like, Graham, why the heck are you still editing your videos? Why are you doing this? Like, what's the point? And like, I think now over time he's evolved and he's like, yeah, you know what? It probably wasn't worth it, but now let's do what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's why I see a difference in you now than I did the last time we filmed, which is, it seems like you're less dogmatic and more kind of just like, you know, and I think that that's really good because I'm concerned about ever saying something so 100% yes. If to those people out there that really like me or whatever, and they want to listen to what I have to say, if I say something in a dogmatic way of 100%, there is no other way to do things, then they could listen to that. And who knows, I'm a 26-year-old guy. Like, there are so many things in this world I haven't experienced. My mind is subject to change. And it seems like now you've had a bit of a switch where you're like a little bit more, you said like their definition of success or whatever that is. Or you say, you know, I don't think they're successful in my mind. How you add these little things to show that like you have your own perspective. It doesn't necessarily make it right because it's worked for you. Yeah. And I think that that's really good. A lot of people online, like we have people on our show and I listen to podcasts all of the time. I should probably listen to less. But whenever I listen to these podcasts, people will say things in such a dogmatic way as though there's no other way of doing things. And this is the only right way. And I think that that's a little bit dangerous because then it can make people question themselves a lot, which is good, but it's also bad.
Yeah. I mean, it creates controversy, which creates views. And so you see why people do it. It's not controversial to say, yeah, I think I might be right, but you know, who knows? Yeah,
I think that, and that's great. And I feel like that's like real wisdom, like much more wise to say something like that.
What do you think the next stage of your life is going to look like?
That's a great question. You know, I like to think that I'll find a girlfriend, hopefully, and it'll be someone that I really like.
You know, you have to like actually start going out and trying to meet people, right?
You know, as much as I want to fight that, I think at the end of the day, you could be right.
You're going to have to prospect.
Yeah, I know. And I think that is in my future, hopefully soon.
Prospecting. There we go.
We'll see. I'll start prospecting. The only problem is I just, for some reason, can't really like anyone. And so I don't know if that's.
and by the way, you have to prospect not for a YouTube video, because I know that that's been part of your prospecting.
Yes. Yeah, that was a whole thing. Yeah. However, for some reason, like I'll still go and I'll talk to people and everything, but I just can never seem to like anybody. So I think I don't know if that's like something going on with me or if that's, you know, I just really haven't found my person yet. We talked to someone recently on the podcast, Dr. K, shout out Dr. K. He said that he believes in the soulmate. And he had an experience where he just saw someone and immediately was floored by them. And so I'm like, well, that's also dangerous because I don't want to wait out for that.
You want to believe Dr. K's philosophy?
Maybe, you know, like, I don't know. Like I'm like, I hope that's the case, but I also don't want to put all my eggs in that basket because I could become 45 and still have never had that, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's funny because that's another funny conversation that I've had over the years on this podcast when I talk to like, you know, let's say mid-30s or 40-year-olds who haven't gotten married yet. And, you know, it's just like, it's always the same kind of story. I'm like, why not? Ugh, I just can't find anyone, you know, good enough and whatever. And now they, you know, it's hard to know if they're after you for your money or this or that. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what happens as life goes on. You know, people get more baggage. You've been on this earth 40 years. You've done a lot of different things. People have, you know, they're less dogmatic usually. Like they have this set of beliefs that has shaped their world for 40 years. And you have your set of beliefs. Like people are a lot more that way. And if you've been like waiting for the perfect one and they never happen for 40 years, I don't know. The odds say that maybe you're being a little too picky.
Yeah.
You know, you're 25, you're 26. So that's a little different, but
no, I agree with you. And people become less malleable, you know, generally speaking, the older they get.
Yeah.
Or like if you're on the track of becoming more and more malleable and open-minded, you'll probably continue in that track, but I don't think that's a whole lot of people.
Yeah. No, it's not.
No. My dad, for example, though, I think the older he's gotten, he's become a whole lot more open-minded, which is interesting, but I think he's always been on that track. But yes, dating is an interesting thing. I don't think girls are after me for my money. I don't think I have it like that quite yet. I don't have the motion, but maybe a few years down the line, maybe they could be going after me for my money, but not right now, at least.
Well, wouldn't you want to like get somebody before that becomes like a thought?
Absolutely. However, I don't give the impression, like people don't look at me and they're like, oh, that's a wealthy guy. Absolutely not. Like usually I look
but they'll look you up on
poor.
Social media and they're going to assume that.
That's true. Yeah. But fortunately, I feel like I still can, like people don't know it. They quite, you know, I don't think people can guess and I think they'd be,
but we live in like an online world. Like, I don't know. it's funny because so I met my wife in college, and I think that when I got married was kind of like the end of like, oh, we meet people in person.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you first meet. Like, dude, online dating and stuff was super weird back then. Meeting somebody online without having met before in person, like just DMing them out of the blue, that was weird. Now it's like, I forgot the study I saw, but I think it's like 80% of relationships start online.
Eventually, I'd like to do something where I go up and I like ask 100 girls on a date or something like that, because I feel like it will make me less nervous if I film it, oddly enough. And then I could post it, and I feel like that would be really good content, and hopefully people could watch.
So now we're bringing this back to making it a YouTube video.
But it will make me less nervous because I'll be like, hey, at least if I get rejected, I have a funny video, which, you know, and I also think that.
Do you think you fear rejection then? Like, is that why you're not dating? You're afraid of rejection?
I don't think that's why I'm not dating, but I fear rejection for sure. I think everybody fears rejection, especially single guys. Like, it's just kind of a thing. And if you don't, you're like in the top 0.1% of guys.
Well, I understand that nobody wants to get rejected. Like, I understand that. But for most people who are basically what you're describing, the fear of rejection keeps them from ever playing the game.
Yeah.
So do you think that you don't play the game out of the fear?
Well, that's why I think dating apps are so popular now, is because it kind of adds a level of safety between you and getting rejected. Because it doesn't feel like real rejection. And you know, you don't see it.
Doesn't feel like real rejection.
No, it doesn't. Like when you swipe and then you just don't ever see their face ever again because they never swiped right on you. So I think that everybody is single, especially single guys. Like they're just.
If that was the case though, then why is it even harder for single guys to like, you know, because, you know, I've had all these alpha male guys on, and, you know, it's basically like, oh, there's this dating epidemic. Like guys can't get any girls now. And because of social media and all this stuff. And I'm like, really? To me, it seems like there's more options than ever. Why are guys having such a hard time if you don't even have to get rejected in the face anymore? And like, you got endless options swiping. Like, how the heck are guys having such a hard time? I don't get it.
I do kind of agree with the general sentiment of them, which is my understanding is like a smaller
Well, you're the guy, so tell me.
Smaller percentage of guys are getting with like more girls. And then you have all of these girls can get attention from any guy if they just post pictures of themselves online. I do agree with that. I think that that's mostly true. But also, if you're a guy, I don't think that guys have a whole lot of luck on dating apps, is my understanding. I could be wrong.
For like long-term relationships.
For long-term relationships, it's easy to have intimacy. And if you have support from a close friend of yours, it's like you have both boxes checked for what a long-term.
But I'm saying like these dating apps, people are just hooking up is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that's like having long-term relationships.
No, and people like naturally, biologically speaking, we've always been drawn to things that are instantly gratifying. And that's something that's usually instantly gratifying. It triggers the dopamine receptors. Boom, you're happy. And then you go home probably and you're upset with yourself maybe. And then you do it again. It's like an addiction.
Yeah, it is an addiction for sure. So you don't, basically what I'm hearing from you is you don't think it's going to happen on the dating app. You've been trying that. Doesn't work.
I think it could happen on the dating apps. But I hope it doesn't.
And then you're going to go out in public, but you're still kind of scared to do that. So now you want to film a YouTube video out of fear.
Yeah. Does that sound like a recipe for success to you?
Yeah, it doesn't sound too smart to me, but yeah.
What do you think? Should I just go to church and try to find like
I would only go to church if like you really wanted a church girl and you were a guy that a church girl would want.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I've heard that from people before too. Like, oh, maybe I want a good girl. I don't want one of these dating app girls. I'm like, well, not every girl in church is good. Number one. But number two, are you the guy that the true church girl would want? And if, you know, you ain't about, you know, this at a high level, then, you know, somebody who's really a strong believer is not going to be interested.
Right. I don't know. Maybe I got to sign up for those one of those like 20v1 things where you have like, have you ever seen those? People like, people against the wall and they're just like, boom.
You've been so YouTubed that everything's got to be a challenge
No, I
or
have
like a
content
viral
brain.
idea.
I do really have content brain, and I'm trying to not have that.
That's what
I was
wait,
also
why?
joking when I was saying that. In
I don't
fairness,
think you're
kinda.
joking. I think you're serious in that.
No,
like
I think that would be bad
ways.
for our brand if I did that. Like I think it would
We're
either
gonna put you on one of these Netflix shows, like
Oh yeah, too hot to handle.
yeah, Inferno Island or whatever.
I would say I'm not hot enough to handle. I would say
Yeah. Well, like, here's the thing. Like, I said this last time, but you know, you're young, you're good looking, you're famous, you have money, you have every intangible. And if you have fear about getting rejected, then yeah, I see why everyone has a struggle. Because like you have no reason for having fear. You literally have no reason you should have any fear.
That's a real, I mean, hey, thank you for all those compliments. That's very generous of you. I still, for some reason, it's scary, I guess.
I know, and that's my point. If you have fear with everything you've got going on in your life, freak, man, I don't know what these normal guys are acting like.
I think that there's maybe like 3 or 4 times I've like gone up to somebody in public and like asked them out. Yeah, there was one time a few months ago that I did it, and my heart was just racing, and I had drank, like I had some drinks
You had
in
some
me.
liquid courage.
Yeah, and I like it. I was I was mortified, and so many times I was like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. And after like minutes of hyping myself up, I had my best friend standing right next to me. He's trying to hype me up. Like, this is what it takes. I did it. So I didn't get rejected. So that was cool. It didn't end up going anywhere.
Yeah, but it was a win.
Yeah, but I have also been rejected.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I've done it like 3 or 4 times. Maybe. I can only remember 2, but I'm just assuming there was 1 or 2 more.
You can only recall asking 2 girls out in your whole life.
Like in person, yes.
That is freaking crazy. Okay. You asked what I would do. So dude, I've been out of the dating game for a long time.
Okay.
But what about just doing it the old fashioned way and just going out, meeting people in real life, and then just asking them out and not being scared?
Okay, let's role play this, okay?
Okay.
I'm a girl. I'm shopping. I'm by the tomatoes. Okay, I'm kind of just like doing my thing over here, okay?
Well, okay, let's take a step back from here.
Oh,
All
see,
right.
that's what I'm saying. You're too nervous. You don't want
No. I'm not too nervous. I'm like, well, first off, when I say like going out and stuff, getting yourself in a setting where somebody would actually be open to being asked out. Like, sure, could it happen at the grocery store and like y'all just you see some girl in the aisle and you ask her out in 2 seconds? That's probably going to be pretty hard. Like,
That's I only go to the grocery store. Okay.
yeah, I said you're gonna have to put yourself in different settings.
All right, ready? I'm playing pickleball. Is that okay?
Yeah, that would be great. Because
Okay,
now you have time to spend with somebody. Like the grocery store. So here's the thing. It takes time to like actually see if this is going to go anywhere.
Right.
So
I agree with
the
you.
grocery
Pickleball-
stores is instant. Like it's just, you don't have enough time. But if we're going to go play at the pickleball courts and, you know, somebody's going to be there for the next couple of hours, well, yeah, this is a great time.
Okay. I'm a girl. I'm playing pickleball. I just lost. I'm heated because I lost, and I'm kind of standing on the side. Ready?
I don't know how many girls are like truly pissed.
I know.
about losing the
Yeah.
pickleball
I just
match. Okay.
lost a game, and I'm challenging. My paddle is up there, and some people got to lose for me to be able to play.
Yeah. For sure, you should talk to this girl.
Okay. So go ahead. I'm the girl.
Oh, you're the girl.
Yeah.
Right? Go up to her and say, what's up? Like, I don't
No,
understand.
you're the guy. You're the guy. I'm the girl. We're role playing this.
Okay.
Okay. So if you have game, if you think you know what to do, I want to see you. Okay.
I mean, the situation's going to be different, but...
Sorry, what'd you say?
Okay, we're role playing now.
Yeah.
What's your name? Jacquelina?
Well, you don't know what
Jacqueline?
my name is because I wouldn't know what this girl's name is. Okay.
Okay. Well, looks like you lost. What's up?
I don't know. My backhand, it just hasn't been good lately. And my partner, oh my God, they suck.
Okay. Are you looking for a new partner?
Am I looking for, are you any good?
Yeah. I play a lot.
I'm kind of nervous because I came here with them. I don't really want to abandon them. I'm just kind of playing with them.
Okay. Well, how often do you come here? Like we're just, I don't
How often do you come here? That right there is the most like, how often do you come here? How often do you come here? Isn't that like supposed to be like
what?
That's like what when you see a girl at a bar, that's like the most mainstream. How often do you come here?
Mainstream things work, right? Things become mainstream for a reason because they work.
So you're saying I got to go up to a girl. How often do you come here?
Or if you go there a lot, right? Like that's why I say it's hard because I don't know the full context of the situation. But if I was at the pickleball court a lot and I saw this girl that I've never seen before, I wouldn't say how often you come here because I already know the answer. I'd be like, hey, I've never seen you here before.
That's pretty good.
Right? Are you new? Like, do you come at different times? Like whatever, right? Because I come here all the time. But if somebody is like, or if I'm new at the court and I've never been there, then I'll be like, yeah, do you come here often? Like it's my first time. So like, I got to know the context of the situation.
And then how do you go from like friends to not friends? Like how do you show that you're interested in
that's
them?
why I'm saying you're now going to go and try and like actually do the activity, right? Like, oh, looks like you lost, you looking for a partner? What's up? Like, I don't have a partner with me either. Whatever. Like, just throw it out there. What's the worst that happens? She says no. What's the best that happens? She says yes. Like, to me anyways, I'm just not trying to overthink it. I would just get straight to the point.
Yeah. And I do.
And you're playing pickleball. This is not like you're asking her out. You're like, looks like you don't have a partner. Like, do you need one?
I think you're right. And like, I am kind of just giving you crap, but I agree with you. I think that most guys, including myself, tend to overthink it, and you don't ever hit on them. You just kind of talk to them. And that's like the best way.
You're talking about pickleball. You just, hey, how'd the last game go for you? Oh, I lost, or I just got here, right? I'm getting ready to play. Oh, okay. Who you partnered up with? Oh, okay. Like, you ever come here often? Like, I've never seen you here. I'm here every week, like whatever. You're just having a conversation. Like this isn't rocket science.
For the guys out there, I know I'm overthinking it. And if you're single, you probably are too.
Everyone is.
Everyone's overthinking it. And so if we could all just stop overthinking, be a little bit more like Ryan, I think we'll all have a long, beautiful, healthy relationship with kids. Hopefully.
Well, I'll tell you, like, even when I met Mindy, it was a group of 8 people in a canoeing class. Okay. We meet at this canoeing class, part of college. And so like activities are great because you have to spend time together. That's why I say the pickleball is like a great spot to do this. And, she catches my eye. I don't really get a chance to talk to her the first day because it's just, they're teaching us. So it's not like it's even interactive in that way. I'm like, oh, okay, this trip's about to be pretty sweet, So then we finally have like the next class where people are actually like interacting and stuff. And so I'm not like asking her out the first class, but I'm being friendly and getting to know her and all these things. And it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I think you're trying to like win the battle instantly by asking her out right then and there in 5 minutes of playing pickleball. Whereas I'm like, all right, like, let's know the context of this situation. Is she going to come back here at any point? Does she play here often? Like, is there opportunity to develop a relationship, beyond just this moment? Or if not, do I got to make my move right now because this is the only shot? That's why I was like, I don't know that there's enough context to truly say what's the best move.
You're making it seem very easy.
I mean, it's just sales. Like, this is literally just sales.
So
if I'm trying to close a prospect in sales, I need to know the context of what the situation is. Who's the prospect? What are their goals? What are all these things? Do I have another chance at the prospect of closing the deal? If not, I got to make a different move than if I'm playing it for the long haul.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to gain the confidence. I already have the confidence.
You have it all.
I'm just going to do it.
I'm going to hype you up. I'm going to be like, dude, Jack's got it all.
I haven't broken 100.
Yeah, but we're not going to meet her on the golf course. You're a better pickleball player.
I hope I don't, because that would not be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instant unattraction.
But you're a good pickleball player, right?
Yeah, I'm good at pickleball.
Frick, dude. You got it all, man. Pickleball, looks, fame, youth. If you're scared, I just don't even know how other people survive.
Like, I don't know. I think like those things can help, sure. But I think that they still are pretty like unrelated. Like there are people out there that are just born with some sort of confidence and.
Oh, I agree.
I
agree. They have confidence for no reason.
Yeah.
Bro, why are you so confident? You should not be. But you know what? They make it happen.
That's true. And kudos to those people. Shout out them. I think I could learn something from them.
You know where confidence comes from?
I would say evidence.
Okay. So the definition of faith, according to the Bible, it's in Hebrews 11:1. It's basically confidence or belief in what is unseen. And so, faith is like, hey, I have confidence and belief that, at least what the Bible says, hey, Jesus is coming back, that he did all these things. I have not personally seen it, but I believe it, right? And it's usually in things that are unseen or what's to come. And so, your confidence for you is like, I'll say this, my definition of faith or basically like strength and faith, which let's just relate to confidence because they're very similar, like faith in myself or confidence in myself or whatever. I think there's two parts of faith. I think there's objective evidence. So objectively, you have all of these things that should lead to confidence, right? And then there's subjective experience. And so, if I was to relate this to the Bible, then to you, I would say, okay, the objective evidence of the Bible is very clear. There's all these Dead Sea Scrolls. There's all this historical evidence. There's all of these things that make me objectively believe in it. Now, Don Lemon may not believe, right? Because it's like he ignores objective realities that we can all agree on. But for most people, hey, these are the objective facts. Jack is this, and this. Everybody can really agree on that. But then faith and confidence is also derived from subjective experience. And so why do some people who really don't have a lot going on have so much faith? Because of their own subjective experience. They've just tried and succeeded so many times that they believe they can do anything, right? So like a lot of my faith comes from subjective things that have happened in my life. Like, dude, I've done so many things. Like, of course I could do this. This ain't nothing. I've played this. I've done that. I started this. I've done that. Of course I can succeed because I have subjective experience. Nobody can ever take that away from me. And it just continues to grow my confidence or my faith in something. And when it relates to like Christianity, I have so many subjective experiences with miracles and healings and God working in my life that it increases my faith. So for you, subjective experience wise is that you really have none. That's why it's low, because you haven't really taken a lot of shots. You're like, yeah, I mean, I can count 2 times. Well, of course, like you don't have a lot of confidence, but if you go do it 20 times, you've 10x'd the amount of experience you've had in doing this. And guess what? Your confidence will improve. You'll get rejected a bunch. You'll be like, yeah, I'm still alive. It wasn't like that big of a deal. And then you'll just keep moving.
You're absolutely correct. I think I just need to practice it.
You need reps.
I need reps. I was going to say I need reps, but I think guys get a lot of hate for saying I need reps.
No, I'm not talking about like having sex and
I
didn't
mean that. Yeah.
I'm just saying you just need to take more shots.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take some more shots and I'm going to see how that goes.
See how that goes.
I'm going to see how that goes. Yeah.
I like your original YouTube idea of asking 100 girls out.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's obviously going to get reps, but yeah, I guess, dude, if you want to like make it funny and, like, oh, if I get rejected, it's all good. Like it was kind of a joke anyways, but like, I don't know. I don't think you're going to meet your future wife on the YouTube video.
I don't think so, but I think it will get me more comfortable with rejection.
I don't think it will.
You don't think it will?
No, because you've already done it. You've already done like these YouTube random things and you're still scared.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll help you because the moment the camera turns off, you're going to have to go do it for real.
Give me a plan of action here. What am I doing?
Dude, I think you go play pickleball. I mean, you go play
pickleball.
Dude. Have you ever seen any girls you liked while you're playing pickleball?
Maybe 1, maybe 2.
How often do you play?
If I like maybe a couple times a week.
Okay, so you haven't had that much success then
No.
at seeing some candidates.
No.
Maybe play at a different park.
Okay. Play at a different park. Try to find someone.
You ever been to, they just opened Chicken and Pickle.
I've been there a couple of times.
How is it?
Great. It's amazing. Like the courts are incredible. The price is actually very, very good. It's very reasonable.
I wasn't necessarily talking about the place, but that is nice to know. How are the candidates?
Oh, I don't know. I just show up and I play pickleball.
Okay. So maybe you should scout better.
I'm like locked in. When I show up to the courts, like I'm thinking about one thing and that's the dub.
And then
I'm
after you're thinking about eating your chicken wings.
Exactly. Yeah.
So maybe we got to switch our focus a little bit.
Yeah. Would you say that your life has gotten like dramatically better once you've kind of locked in with the whole family thing and kids and all of that?
Way better. Way better.
And do you think that's because you don't have your focus diverted on women or other things that are distracting?
I think there's lots of reasons, but certainly like if you think about how much time and energy you have to put into like thinking about this thing we're talking about right now,
right,
and like all this stuff and the uncertainty and like, yeah, I think it takes a lot of time and headspace to figure that out. But then I think like, you know, for me, it's not like I don't spend a lot of time. I still have, like, it's just now I know where my time is going to get spent, and I also am like certain of the outcome. Like I know how my wife is, I know how my family is. Like there's so much joy and fulfillment. So it's like, maybe time-wise, it doesn't change. In fact, maybe more time gets spent with family because you live with them and, you know, all that. But it's the maybe the certainty of the joy and the peace and knowing that somebody's alongside me for the long haul and forever. And it's this level of certainty and peace. And also even like the certainty of like, yo, like these are my little spawns. Like they're going to carry on our lineage. Like I'm certain my lineage is going to continue carrying on my legacy. And that's cool. I don't know what it would be like if I was 35 right now, which I am, had no kids, no wife. And yeah, say everything else is the same. Like, I don't think everything else would be the same. Number one, I think it would be far different, far worse. And two, it's like, yeah, that'd be so much time and energy and uncertainty all these years of like, man, is this the right one? I would say certainty and peace would be the main differences. Now that I'm just kind of verbalizing it now.
Would you make it a top priority of mine?
I don't know. It depends if it's a priority for you. Like if you say,
like if we're optimizing for fulfillment and like quality of life.
I can't really find anyone that would say that a spouse and kids are not fulfilling.
Not top like 3 things.
For sure. I mean, yeah, there are certain people who have ended up divorced and now they're scarred. There are certain people who, you know, maybe their kids didn't, but you know, if you were to look at the overwhelming majority, everyone would probably agree that a spouse and kids is a top priority in life, if not the top for most people. Right. And so it's like, you currently have not experienced something that is, if not the top, you know, priority for a lot of people. You know, even same thing with faith. Like most, if you were to talk to many people, most people, not most, but a lot of people would say like, okay, their faith is the number one thing in their life. Then you would see a lot of people would say their family is the number one thing in their life. And then yeah, you would have people say their career, but career is usually below those two things if you were to ask people honestly. So it's like right now, you know, your life revolves around kind of like your career and your relationships with other people, not necessarily your spouse or kids, but like, you know, friends and parents, and which is great. Those are also great, but it's different with a spouse and kids.
That's interesting. I agree. I think it's probably something that like, I mean, it's going to start heating up, you know, and this is the point too, is like, if, so I knew I wanted to get married young because like, long story short, I wanted to live my life, like I said, the way the Bible teaches. And so I wasn't going to go sleep around and do all this stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm also not going to be, you know, a 40-year-old virgin. So I should probably get married sooner than later. And, you know, I ended up getting married when I was about 24. She was 21. And, you know, different time, like I said, social media wasn't as what it is today. But I ignored a lot of conventional wisdom of, oh, get your career in place, make enough money, make sure you're financially ready. We had none of those things, you know? And it's been great building all of those things together. And I just knew that, you know, I wanted to have all of those things sooner rather than later because I knew they were valuable and important and fulfilling even before Adam. I just knew they were a priority in my life. That being said, it's like reverse engineering. So if you know that you want to have kids and a wife and all these things, and you know it's super important to you, then yeah, why wouldn't it be a pursuit now? Like, why wouldn't it be important now to start doing that? But, you know, I've had many people on the show and they do all, for the most part, regret it, who wait because their career is like the priority and the important. Like, look, I don't have time for all that right now. I'm going to deal with it later on in life. And
They do. And they work at their career and they spend their 20s building something. They spend their 30s building something. And maybe in their late 30s, they're now like, hey, I'm ready to settle down and do this thing. But it gets like way harder because it's like when you're older, dating's harder. Dating's way harder when you're older. There's way less options when you're older. And then, even having kids becomes a challenge because, the older you get, the harder it is to have kids. Not for a guy, but for a girl, for sure. And it's like, if you want, think about it. Like, how do you want to be an old dad when your kids are, let's say in high school and you're 60, 70 years old? Like, I don't know. Right. Like, but that's the path that these kind of people would be on.
I think that you're spot on. When I think deeply about it, I think the like at the core of everything that I wrestle with in terms of the relationship is I know that that's a very important long-term goal of mine. Arguably goal number one is like having a family, having kids. And yet I still don't necessarily see what I'm doing in the present day. I don't see that as activities that would be conducive toward that life.
Correct. Like what you're doing doesn't say that that's a priority.
Right. Which is there's like, I can't really explain that, I suppose, that difference. But I do agree. I think that I should probably service that goal a little bit more.
I would say, for me, it was a priority and I was actively doing things that would yield that result. I was always out and about. I was in college. I was playing sports and like, I was never at my house just doing nothing. I was always out. And I was going to church and doing small groups and young adults. And so I was like anywhere and everywhere that would lead to the outcome I was looking for. That wasn't the only priority in my life. Like I was playing baseball and that was my priority to make it in the big leagues and, grow my faith. And like, so it's not like that was the only focus of my life.
Right. But it was a very, very high priority.
But it was important. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I want to do this and I'm not doing anything that would yield that potential. And so I think like, I don't know, dude, it's kind of like a YouTube. Okay. So I always make analogies, but it's like somebody says, hey, I want to be a YouTuber. And then to your point, they just kind of do it half effort. It's like, dude, are you really going to actually make it in this podcast game? Like probably not. And that's kind of where you're like, yeah, it could happen. Occasionally I do this and occasionally it's like, yeah, it could, but odds are no.
I hear from a lot of people, it's like if you're at least like going on dates, even if it's with girls from dating apps, then eventually one of them will stand out above all of the other ones. And that's the one that you're going to pick. But still, for some reason, I haven't found that. But maybe I'm looking like my method of filtering and searching is off base.
Or I think it's like a process. Maybe I hate relating this to business, but it's the only way I know how.
No, I mean, it's probably, you're speaking my language.
So when people say, okay, if we look at the end in mind, okay, here's the result. I want to, let's say buy a house. All right. So I want to buy a house. What needs to happen in order for me to buy a house? Well, first off, I got to start at the top of the funnel and have enough houses to look at to potentially buy. Right. So I got to look through lots of deals and lots of things. Then I got to go make offers on lots of houses. And then, most of them are going to say no, especially if I'm lowballing, trying to get a really good deal. And so finally, one says yes. And guess what? Now we go into contract. And so we go into contract and I got to do my inspections. I got to do due diligence. I got to do all this stuff. Right. And I got to find out whether or not I'm going to commit to buying this house. And I'm going to spend money along the way, figuring that out, spending time and money and everything else. And then boom, I either buy the house or I don't. That's kind of what's going on here.
That's a great analogy.
And, for you, are you looking at enough houses? No, we know that for a fact. Are you making enough offers? Definitely no. We know that for a fact. You're not even getting into the inspection period, right? Like you've only done that a couple of times. So therefore, of course, like you haven't bought a house in this metaphor. But like for us, this is totally different in business now, but like when we coach people on real estate investing, like, dude, I can't get deals. And we always say, well, how many offers did you make? How many leads do you have? Like if you have no leads and you make no offers, of course you're not getting deals. Duh. It's all the same.
That's a great analogy. I think it's reframing my mind. Maybe that was the right way that you phrased that information, and now I can just flip the switch.
Yeah, dude. Pickleball.
Pickleball's the way to do it.
Every day.
Pickleball every single day.
That'd be a
different
good excuse.
Courts.
Yeah, that'd be a good excuse to play pickleball a lot.
That's actually a really good point there. Yeah, and maybe I can...
It'll be productive. You'll get exercise, you're going to have fun, hang out with friends, and then you're going to be prospecting.
I'm going to do it. I'm trying to think if there's a way that I can like somehow, associate that with
content.
Yeah. No. Just like, can I write off something? Just like, I need tax strategy at the end of the day. I think that's also something
This is part of your social media game. We're already talking about it right now.
And it would probably level up my business if I got a girlfriend.
Maybe. It's debatable. It could be, or it could distract you. I don't know.
Or it could distract me. Yeah, I think right now being single, women are already a distraction for a single.
Yeah,
guy.
that's true. You probably can't get more distracted than you currently are. That makes sense. All right, dude, I can go on and on about this, but man, it's always been good talking with you. We always talk about random things.
We got to go golfing. I would love, I'm not kidding. Like I would actually love to go golfing.
Okay. We're going to go this month.
I've only golfed at really, really bad courses.
I know. I'm going to take you to a private country club. We're going to have a caddy and everything.
A caddy?
Yeah, dude.
That'll be embarrassing. The caddies, that'll be embarrassing.
No,
like,
dude,
I'm bad. I'm bad.
I know. Trust me. I've brought people who've literally never golfed.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So trust me, you'll be all right.
All right. As long as we don't have any people like behind us.
No,
or at least like seven holes.
No, we'll pick up your ball and stuff. So
okay,
don't worry. Like if you hit it out, you'll just drop a me.
When I hit it out.
When you hit it out, you will just drop a me and we'll be good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right, bro. Well, I appreciate the convo, man. If people want to check you out, where do they go?
Nice coffee hour. That's the main one. If you're a woman,
if you're
single,
woman, yeah.
JLSSELBY on Instagram. Shoot me a DM or shoot me multiple because sometimes the Instagram DMs, they're just kind of broken. So I don't know, or comment on my photo or something a few times because I don't really also have the phone on my app or the app on my phone.
There we go, guys. Go hit them up and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.
Thanks.